Why is he just, this is a really dishonorable guy, because he is just waiting for people to respawn. He can see where they're going to respawn, and he just takes them out like right away.
Like, how can you tell a Russian spy? You hand him an AR, they come around to the charging handle, but it's not there. On the...
Very original. This is so classic 80s, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're looking at the different weapons used by the terrorists and the counter-terrorists. This one's the Tech 9.
All right, the Tech 9. This is an infamous, not famous, an infamous firearm. Now, we know this from a lot of American movies, and it was actually really popular because crime and, you know, exploitive news, and it was in some really high-profile crimes as well. But did you know that this is actually a Swedish weapon?
Oh, no kidding! I only recognize it from Big Trouble in Little China. That's the one that Kurt Russell.
Yes, that's probably the most famous and, you know, most deserving. Which that's kind of basically, you know, John Carpenter's Han Solo. You know,
that's
Kurt
right.
Russell's amazing. And I actually have some good stories about talking to John Carpenter about Kurt Russell. Apparently, we get along, is what John Carpenter said. So the Tech 9, it's a developed by the Swedish company, and they were originally, I think, planning on selling it to South African forces, and they ended up not doing it. So it was shipped out to some different paramilitary groups, but for the most part, it had really high sales. I think they sold over 250,000 in various iterations in the United States. And when they brought it to the United States, they had to get rid of the shoulder stock and the forward pistol grip and certain things. And also, it was an open bolt weapon system, and they changed it to a closed bolt because the ATF was like, With machine pistols or any type of pistol, open bolt is really easy to convert to full auto. And so they had to convert it to a closed bolt system. But yeah, very, very popular firearm.
The way that he's gripping the weapon, does that look pretty legit? I've never put my hands on
I
those
would
things.
do it for sure. Now, when you do this, if you're not using a buttstock, if you have like a machine pistol or something, you generally want to have a sling on it. And what you do is you push out on the sling. So you almost use the sling kind of in the opposite way you would use a buttstock for this to stabilize. And then, yeah, I grab the magwell on that. And if you're running it full auto, you definitely need it. It's kind of hard to like hold it, you know, steady on full auto. You know, what's funny is they also went through a lot of different iterations as new assault weapon. You know, go watch our Vanguard video if you want to learn about assault weapons. They've changed a lot of features. One of them was that shoulder thing that goes up, the barrel shroud. And later modified the barrel shroud because it was banned under certain laws. So then it was just, for those that don't know, a barrel shroud is just something you put over the barrel that helps with heat, so you don't burn yourself when you use it. But yeah, very, very famous weapon system. And it makes sense that, you know, they're having the terrorists use this. It was used in a lot of crime. It was used in some very famous crimes, unfortunately. You know, what's funny is there's a Swiss company called B&T, and they make very high-end firearms. And they actually came out with their version of a Tech 9 in a limited run, which was really cool.
Oh, interesting. All right, this is the counter-terrorist 5.7.
What do you know about the 5.7?
No, I don't know anything about this. This is, this is not familiar to me.
The 5.7, developed by FN, it was a companion gun, actually, to the P90. They came out with two different firearms at the same time. It's a high-velocity pistol caliber, but it behaves almost like a rifle caliber. It was designed to defeat soft body armor. Now, your normal over-the-counter 5.7 rounds won't defeat most soft body armor, but if you get the special ones, the spicy ones, it will. This was developed for high-end security teams as a companion piece to the PDW, the P90. Now, PDW is a personal defense weapon. A personal defense weapon is something a little bit more capable than a pistol. Generally, select fire or full auto. It has some type of shoulder stop and pistol grip, some way to like stabilize it, even though the barrel still might be as short as a standard pistol barrel. But the ability to stabilize, right, and to use both your hands to fire it increases its accuracy. Not so much increases the firearm's accuracy, but increases your accuracy using it. Ruger actually just recently came out with a 5.7. I think CMMG, which is a company that I'm familiar with, they make great stuff. They have a Banshee, which is like an AR-style rifle that shoots the 5.7. I always like it when there's more choices. And in the firearms market right now, more and more companies are taking the risk with this firearm where for the longest time, it was just like two guns you could get. And the Ruger pistol, called the 5.7, is actually, I think, a little less expensive, and it actually looks cooler than the FN. Now, I love FN, but like the Ruger 5.7 actually looks kind of cool. I like the grip on it. It's a big, chonky grip. It's a long round, so it's like you're gripping a 2x4. So.
Looks pretty compact.
Yeah, no, it's chonky, dude. It's a big gun. And so, yeah, you can make long distance shots with this too. It's a very fast, flat flying round. You know what's interesting though is it being red. Like, well, I don't know why you'd want, like, unless you're a competition gun or just like
That's CSGO, man. You gotta get those hot skins, man. You get that hot skin action.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They're painting it up. Okay.
Why is he just? This is a really dishonorable guy because he is just waiting for people to respawn. He can see where they're gonna respawn, and he just takes them out like right away.
I've never wanted to fight fair in a gunfight, so I don't blame him. I guess I don't know.
If this was real life and you could see where somebody was gonna respawn, I would just kind of camp out there as well.
What's he doing with that karambit and like 30 feet away from somebody?
Karambit, that's the classic, man. Everybody's got the karambit.
You ever do any karambit training?
You know, it's funny, when I graduated from Green Beret training at Fort Bragg, they must have had an overstock of VHS tapes or something because everybody got a VHS copy of Karambit Training Basics. That's the most ridiculous graduation present ever.
That's hilarious, man. You still have it?
No.
Oh man, that's disappointing. I want to find it.
I've never held a Karambit before, let alone watched a VHS tape on how to train with it.
I never got into it just because it's a completely different style. Well, not completely, but it's very different than normal knife fighting. And like I always carry a pocket knife. There's like kitchen knives rarely available. So, and I was interested in so many different styles of martial arts and everything. I just never got into it. But it is effective if you take the time with it. It's very, very devastating.
So now we're on to the submachine guns, terrorists and counter-terrorists. First up, the MAC-10.
You know, they also call this the Cobra. Do you know where they got the name from it?
No.
They literally combined Cobra and Manta Ray, and that's how they put it together.
Very original. This is so classic 80s, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's pretty innovative. And again, this is another open bolt weapon system that later for the civilian market, they had to convert it to closed bolt, which required a lot more engineering. It's fairly simple to make open bolt. And actually, if you take this thing apart, one of the great things about it is it's very simple. There's very few parts in it, and it's easily mass-produced. They ran into some financial troubles, the company, and they ended up selling it to somebody else, if I remember correctly. And you see that wire buttstock on there. Those were terrible. They make adapters for like an AR-style buttstock, you know, adjustable buttstock, and those are good. I fired a few like that, but those, I like the wire buttstock on the Tech 9, personally. Now, maybe that's also nostalgia, because that's a little more cooler looking to me, but the wire buttstock on this was terrible. Like, most people didn't like them. I don't like it. It's too weak. It moves around a lot. You got to have some good control. Now, it's actually a fairly decent suppressed weapon, too. You can run a big, chunky suppressor on that bad boy. They're cool. You can actually find some of the open bolt variants because they were legal to sell for a while before the ATF was like, very easy to convert it from full auto. I can tell you how. I'm not going to tell you how.
Yeah, best not. Not in this video. No, I fired one of these a long time ago with a suppressor, actually. I remember it was a 45 caliber, if I'm remembering accurately. But I remember not a lot of recoil. Very compact.
No,
easy to control.
Manageable. Not super accurate, but I mean, it's got a real short barrel.
More like a PDW, like a personal defense weapon, stuff like that?
Yeah, this is definitely a PDW, for sure. But yeah, no, they're cool. I want one. I'd want a Tech 9 first.
Really? Tech 9 first?
I had a plastic Tech 9. Well, I didn't. My cousins did. My mom didn't let it. Worked out, didn't it? She really didn't want me to have a lot of toy guns, and I turned out to be a weapons expert. But I remember when I would go down to Naperville and hang out with my cousins, you know, they'd have all the cousins and they had all the coolest toy guns, and so they had this Tech 9, and they had a MAC-10, and they were just, I don't know, it was cool. 80s plastic guns are cool.
Now we're on to the MP9.
Oh, okay.
Rail at top.
I mentioned Brugger and Tomet earlier, B&T. So this was originally a Steyr. Steyr's an Austrian company. They make really good stuff. I like Steyr. Very first screenplay I ever wrote as a freshman in college, it was very stylized, and like this mercenary hitman guy used 2 of these, and it was like all slow-mo, weird camera angles, kind of like the Matrix before I saw them. They're a lot of fun. You can buy them in the pistol variant. Now, according to American laws, if it's a pistol, it can't have a forward grip because reasons. You can buy them in semi-auto. You can, if you have the right licenses, get them in full auto. They're reliable. They're pretty cool. The company, so after Steyr was done selling them, Brugger and Tomet picked them up, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. The B&T sells them now, and they're super cool. They're pretty slick. Yeah, and they have different forward rails where you can put a light on it or whatever. You can suppress them.
This seems like I'm not really sure if you're hearing the report of the gun. They sound pretty heavy duty, pretty heavy sound.
It's a 9mm. So.
Oh, okay.
They got these really cool folding butt stocks if you're allowed to have the SBR version, which means short-barreled rifle. Otherwise, you have to have a pistol brace, which, you know, if you accidentally use it as a short-barreled rifle, oh no, you know. But yeah, so they're pretty effective. They're pretty cool. Realistically, guns like these are good for the new Flux brace. I keep talking about it in most episodes. The Raider Flux brace, I think, is the best PDW out there.
I've seen it.
But,
yeah.
Like, it's basically just, I mean, this thing is like a stabilized pistol, is what it is. The barrel barrel length isn't much longer than your normal pistol. I mean, I carry a 5-inch barrel every day, you know, like this gun's more accurate than I am. And the only thing that provides is more stability. So while it does make it more accurate, if I'm going to carry something like that, I'd prefer to carry a short barrel rifle, like a legit rifle. But they are sick. They are awesome. I'd feel comfortable defending myself. Other than that flux brace and maybe a couple of the B&T options, that's one of the smallest packages you can get in a PDW. And
Nice.
it's just cool. It's a real cool gun. So.
All right, moving on to the shotguns. Sawed-off pump shotgun, classic, baby. Why saw something off? What's sawed off? What's the advantage? What does that do?
Okay, so
You know.
I'll show you here. Now, if you look at this, I believe this is a 16-inch barrel. This might be an 18-inch barrel. If you look at the tube down here, the tube's actually longer than the barrel. And this provides a lot more ammunition storage, so I don't have to load it as much. See, the thing with the pump action shotgun, a lot of people say they're great for home defense, and they are, if you can't get a hold of a modern sporting rifle like an AR-15. Because the learning curve on an AR-15 is so much smaller. On top of that, everyone in your family trained properly can handle it regardless of their size and strength. These are effective, but they require a lot of training. Short barrels are great, and they're great for breaching, or they're great for like holdout guns, or like last-ditch guns, coach gun, if you will. But remember, the shorter the barrel goes, you're also going to be limiting your capacity. And so that means with the shotgun, you have to learn how to run and gun. You got to learn how to feed it. That's the key to running a shotgun, is keeping that fed, right? For a home defense gun, I like a hard side shoulder. For a tactical gun, I'm out in the, you know, in the field with, I like to run Velcro. So you have these like shot cards that you just keep slapping more on there, and you can take them out and put it in, and that's kind of innovative. But yeah, that's basically what it means for sawed off. And it does decrease its range just a little bit, but I mean, this is a close-up gun anyways. You've got to learn how to run these things, because you can't move this, right, unless you do one of two things. Around the trigger guard, and depending upon what it is, like my Winchester 1200, it's back more towards the grip. But for the Remington 870s, get an old one, don't get a new one, not from Freedom Store. It's up here, so you have to hit this in order to pump it, right? Now let's just, you know, we're clear. There's nothing, this is unloaded, nothing in the tube, nothing in the chamber, right? So the only other way is to pull the trigger, right? So you can't pump it unless you either hit the pump release or pull the trigger. All right. And the other thing is, you know, remember your first battle march shoot, the first time you got smoked and then you went to the rifle range and it was a lot more difficult?
Yeah, right.
You could do something called short stroking. And short stroking is when you don't pump it fast enough or hard enough. And what can happen is you don't chamber around. And if your weapon isn't functioning properly, when you need it to defend your life or the life of somebody else's, that's bad news bears, right? So these are great, right? But there's definite limitations. There's definite advantages, breaching, right? I mean, they're devastating weapons, but there's distinct limitations, and I just wanted to point that out.
All right, now we're looking at the counter-terrorist Mag 7. Wait, did he just pump it with the front?
Yeah, he's pumping it.
Oh, so it's a shotgun.
So
We're looking at a shotgun?
Yeah, it is South African. Okay, yep. And it's 12 gauge. All right.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
Never
it
seen
does
this
definitely
before.
look South African. They have a certain style with some of their weapons. But yeah, it's just a pump action, magazine fed 5-shot. That's a big chunky magazine too that you're holding on to.
Yeah. Folks, let us know in the comments section what you think about this gun. Do you have any experience with it? I've never seen it before now.
I don't know if I've held one or I've seen one in person. I don't remember if it was behind glass. I've handled so many weapons. No, I haven't fired this one. One thing I wanted to point out though that I like on certain firearms that are going to be used and abused is if you look at the sights on the back, it has those two metal guards that protect the sight from getting all, we'll say, chewed up.
It almost looks like an Uzi or something.
I thought it was like some Italian submachine gun that kind of looked familiar, but also, you know, from the angle we're looking at, and sometimes video games take liberties. It does sound familiar. I have seen one before. I've never fired one. Man, that's a short barrel too. I wonder how long that is. Because, I mean, if you look at this guy, you know, the barrel starts back here, and the pump is in front of it. So I'm sure the barrel, you know, comes back to where the magazine goes in. So you're looking at maybe like 7-inch barrel maybe on that. I mean, from my angle, that's what it looks like. There's this company called Aguila. They make ammo, and they make these things called mini shells. And a lot of shotguns will take adapters. And it's basically like half the length of a normal shotgun. Well, if you have a tube-fed shotgun, you can fit twice as many, or about twice as many rounds in there. You just need like a follower or an adapter for a lot of shotguns. And so it definitely increases your firepower. Now, those shotgun rounds aren't quite as powerful, or they can be, but they don't quite have the same range or quite have the same payload, but they're still pretty effective. And so I guess there's an adaptation for the mini shells out of this as well.
That's pretty wild, man.
I don't know, I'd love to hear from anybody in the comments that's ever fired one of these, if anybody has one in the States. let us know. I'd love to hear more about it.
All right, rifles, baby.
I'm a rifle guy.
Classic.
Okay, AK-47.
Terrorist weapon, AK-47. No Russian.
Now, the purists in the keyboard warriors will get really upset. Were the first AK-47s milled or were they stamped? Because I was actually issued a milled Russian AK-47 when I was in Iraq. Most AK-47 variants you see are like AKMs. It's okay. You can call it an AK-47. If you want to get super technical, you can. But 7.62 by 3.9, this would make a great ranch gun. It's just durable. It's reliable. They have mythical reliability. But yeah, if you don't take care of it, it's not going to work. And you can get them very accurate, and you can find some that aren't accurate at all. This is an AKM, or specifically a Warser 10. So this is essentially the same thing, but in semi-auto. I mean, how often have you used full auto in like real life? Suppressive fire?
Stability drills out on the range where we're just emptying mags for stability purposes. That's about it. Semi-auto was better for accuracy, right? And that's what we're going for. We don't want to waste a bunch of bullets.
You can fire pretty damn fast. You know what I mean? Like, you can fire semi-auto pretty darn fast. So if you have a reliable semi-auto rifle, even if it's an AK, and these are hugely popular in the United States as well. These are just great, reliable guns. I think everybody should have one. Like, how can you tell a Russian spy? You hand them an AR, they come around with a charging handle, but it's not there. And you got to rock the mags in. And like, these are mag-pull mags. They don't fit the best in the Warser 10, but they do in other mags. You got to do a little work on it that I haven't done. These Warser 10s were designed for single stack mags, and when they were imported to the country, somebody took a Dremel and Dremeled them out to fit the normal. They fit steel mags really well. These are just great firearms, and they're great for deer hunting.
Now, something I'm very familiar with, the M4A1. Well, maybe not this version. This looks a little older than what I...
Oh, yeah. So this is my first AR-15. Good old Bushmaster XM-15. This almost looks like a car 15. And this is still a good, valid fighting rifle, ranch rifle, whatever. You can do a lot with it. Like, this is my work gun. This is a Bravo company, BCM. It's just same thing as an M4. The differences are like barrel length. But it's all mil spec, made in Wisconsin by a former Marine who started the company. They're just wonderful rifles. I like to call them modern sporting rifles. Some people have, they're weapons. Yeah, they are weapons, of course. But in the United States, you know what they get used for? 99.99872% of the time, sporting purposes. That's what they're used vastly for. They're not actually used in very much crime, believe it or not, compared to other weapons like hands, feet, sticks, handguns. It's the best family rifle out there. That's one of the reasons the military adapted it. All sorts of different shapes and sizes in the military, right? So with an adjustable, this isn't a collapsible buttstock. They do make folding buttstocks. It's kind of tricky. You can't fire them folded, or you can just once. You can adjust it, right? And inside there's a buffer tube assembly. You look right here. There's a spring here. It helps absorb a lot of the recoil. So if you're teaching your 12-year-old or your 10-year-old, or what's the right age for your kid to learn firearm safety, it's a great family rifle because your wife can shoot it, your 300-pound uncle can shoot it, your like 90-pound 12-year-old daughter can shoot it. It doesn't have a lot of recoil. You can adjust the butt stocks. They're not holding grandpa's old 30-06 that's like, too big for them. It's so modular, and also it's a great hunting rifle because you just change out a couple parts. You can shoot rabbit or you can shoot grizzly bear. They're just great rifles. There's drawbacks too, keep it clean. But by keep it clean, you don't have to go nuts, just wipe off the bolt and stuff. They're just awesome rifles, man.
All right, now we're moving on to other rifles. We got the SG553.
So I believe this is 7.62 by 3.9 version, although that doesn't look like it in the game. Sid came out with a series of rifles that shoot different caliber, 5.56. So they have two different styles of magazines where, like, with here you have a standard, you just pop it in. For the AK style, they rock it, right? And so those are the two standard fighting rifle or modern sporting rifle ways of loading. And this gun, depending upon if it's a 5.56 or a 5.53, it does both, depending upon which one you get.
Oh, interesting.
It's a good rifle, Swiss engineering. I think an AR-15 is better. I think it's more modular, it's easier to use and everything. It's just as effective. I've never heard of a police department being issued these rifles in the United States. It is a sexy rifle. I want one.
Don't we all?
Now, they're expensive. You can buy them here, but they're expensive. It's a sweet shooting rifle. The recoil's not bad on it and everything. I think an AR-15 is better. And of course, what does better mean? Is a Camaro better than a Dodge Ram? Well,
depends on the purpose and what you're using it for, yeah.
What you would normally get a modern sporting rifle for, I think an AR-15 fits the bill when it comes to budget and modularity and available parts and everything better than this.
Gotcha.
But this is so sexy. If I see one and can afford it, I'm going to get one.
The Soviet, yes, it's the Soviet round, the comrade.
This guy's a classic, one of the OGs.
Yog, baby. Something I fired before over on Lethal Antiquities.
Okay, awesome. Most bullpups, they might not have the best triggers, but this one, you can do trigger work to it, and the later variants do have better triggers, but this thing is a dream to shoot on full auto. It's super stable, runs like a clock. Quick change barrels, like the optics they came with, just the proportions. This was one of the first guns that I looked at as a kid. I think it was in SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics magazine. I think I was in Naperville watching my cousins in the marching band, and Mom bought me a magazine. I don't know what she was thinking, because she didn't want me exposed to a lot of guns.
It was all downhill from there.
Yeah, man, cover to cover, and it had a steyr AUG in it. It was just so sexy and so cool. I'm not a bullpup guy, but I absolutely want one of these.
I am left-handed, so it was a little awkward for me to switch the charging handle on the left-hand side. But it's probably for the best, because the casings were coming out the right-hand side, so I would have been screwed either way, you know.
I do believe later variants you can change that over.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do believe so. H&K came out with, I think, the XM8, which was a functionally great-looking gun, but super ugly. Some people like it, but the reason it's so goddamn ugly, because there was some generals that are like, can you make it look more like Starship Troopers? I shit you not. They said that.
Generals.
Form follows function. Function's the most important thing. Does it work good? Cool. Then it looks good to me. It's a great rifle. It's a classic rifle. They originally had like those proprietary waffle mags are great. The later variants take the standard Stanag mag. And when we say Stanag, folks, what we mean is, but yeah, this is just a standard Stanag mag. And I like it when you have a 5.56 gun, a modern sporting rifle that takes the same magazine.
Gotcha.
Makes things a lot easier. It works great for room clearing with all the mechanics and action and everything behind the trigger. The weight is back and it's easier to do corners. You can have a standard length barrel that is still an overall shorter weapon than like a standard rifle.
G3 SG1.
I don't have a G3 with me, but I do have a setme. These things are wonderful to shoot. This is a Spanish setme. You know the HK slap for the MP5?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it started with this. And so, like, I love this gun. I love shooting it, but it is definitely dated. Some people call them bubbud. That's a little different. I do like resto-modded guns, though, and I'd love to see one of these resto-modded. One of the issues I have is, like, the safety and selector switch is not super intuitive. It's not easy to reach, right? This was a full auto variant at one point, and then it was full autoed, regular civilian ownership, I believe. There's different trigger groups. Some of the G3s and some of the setmes are interchangeable, but it's just so annoying to, like, it's kind of hard to push up the fire, so I'm going to file that off. That does not make it full auto, but this cannot shoot full auto. The mag release, I got pretty big hands, fairly long fingers, and if you see here, it's kind of hard. I gotta break my grip to reach up to hit that mag release. It's not terrible, you know, when you're running an AR, it's just right there. It's so much faster. But you see the evolution in controls, right? This thing isn't the most accurate because, unfortunately, because of our import laws, you got to cut them up to import them, and then somebody welds them back together, right? And some companies do a better job than others. They have a welded rail on this, but I have what they call the claw. And it's this thing that sits on top so I can put an optic on it, but it rides so high, I don't really like it myself.
Oh, interesting. Where does it attach on there?
So it's kind of flared right here, and it just goes on right here. The optic sits like really high up. But yeah, they're fun guns, and you can get, you know, newer versions of this, be it a G3 or a setme that has a welded rail on top. Still fairly effective. It's just with modern controls, they're a little faster.
Look at this SCAR here we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so I think this is a SCAR 20. So I've fired a few SCAR 17s and a SCAR 16. I haven't fired a SCAR 20. If you look at it, you look at that buttstock with the profile, this is like an accurized version. So this could be like their sniper version. Now, SCARs are pretty darn accurate. This is much more accurate than a SCAR 7. I was wishy-washy about the SCARs until I fired a 17 on full auto, and it's made to shoot full auto, though.
That convinced you?
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, this is a more accurized version. They got a variable powered optic on there. That makes sense. And if you look at the buttstock, so it's one of those fancy buttstocks that has the cheek riser. So you set it with that perfect height for you to really, really reach out there.
Yeah, very adjustable. I like that. SCAR was, for me, just as I was getting out. So this would have been late 2009. Just as I was getting out, they were cycling them in. And then I think they've since moved on to other things. Because Cameron used it. I never got a chance to, yeah.
Yeah, he would tell me that too. I know Green Berets that love it and hate it. And I know SEALs that love it and hate it. I know more SEALs that don't like it than do.
Yeah, right?
It's an effective weapon system, though. You know, it works. FN makes great stuff. I mean, I carried a saw for a while. I think you carried a saw for a little while on teams too, right?
No, not on a team. I mean, I had a lot of training time with it, going through the Q course and things like that. But once I got to a team, it was my M4 all the way. So Paul, let me know, what was your favorite weapon that we saw from CSGO?
Or like, an AR-15 style rifle, but for the game, I'm sure it's the same with you, is that M4, M16, AR-15 style rifle. AKs are wonderful. They're super durable, reliable. Yeah, what was your favorite out of this? What did you like the most?
Man, I'd really like to get into the AK game, man. Out in the real world, the AK, I would love to pick one up. Well, that's it for this episode of Total Recoil, looking at the guns from CSGO. Paul, thank you so much for looking at these weapons with us and joining us one more time. I appreciate you being here. Let us know where people can find you out on the internet.
Hey folks, if you want to follow me in my adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at mav11b. And also you can follow my podcast, Thunderpunk Radio, at all the podcast places.
Well, folks, we really appreciate you joining us for this episode of Total Recoil. Let us know in the comments section what you thought of our commentary for the weapons of CSGO. Like the channel, subscribe, and we'll keep you updated on the latest and greatest from Total Recoil. Folks, if you want to hang out with me and Cameron Fath a little bit more, head on over to Shift Fire, the exploration and appreciation of military culture. We also have a podcast called the Pop Culture Field Manual Podcast. If you want to hang out with me a little bit more, head on over to twitch.tv/myhappyself. Ladies and gentlemen, take care. But wait, no! Chicken, no! Get away from that chicken.
Hey, why are you shooting chickens, bro? Oh, I'm getting chickens soon, man. I'm building a coop right now. And like the AK-74, which is...